It was a quiet evening when the stars decided to change Martha's life forever. She was sitting on her balcony, sipping chamomile tea and gazing up at the sky, as she often did after a long day. The air was cool, and the hum of the city below seemed distant and unimportant compared to the vastness above. The stars were bright, twinkling like tiny, distant beacons, and for a moment, she felt small and at peace. She had always loved this time of night, a time when the world seemed to quiet and the worries of her busy life drifted away. But tonight, something was different. The stars seemed to be moving, shifting in a way she couldn't explain. At first, she thought it was just a trick of her tired eyes. Maybe it was the half moon or the clouds passing by, but the more she looked, the more the lights in the sky seemed to spiral and rotate. Then, with a sudden flash of blinding light, the world around her warped. The balcony, the trees, the city below, everything melted away, replaced by an overwhelming white brilliance. Martha stood up, her heart racing, but before she could react, she felt a sharp pull, as if the very gravity around her was changing. Her breath hitched in her chest as the light surrounded her, swallowing her whole. It wasn't fear that gripped her, though. It was something else: curiosity, awe, and perhaps, acceptance. The sensation of weightlessness came next. She floated, suspended in a place that felt entirely unnatural. Her feet no longer touched the ground. No, there was no ground at all. The sensation was like drifting in water, but instead of coolness, it was a warm, gentle embrace. And then, a voice, soft, melodic, almost musical, spoke inside her mind. "You are not alone, Earthling." The words were clear, but the voice wasn't coming from any physical source. It seemed to come from everywhere, as if the air itself was speaking to her. Martha wanted to scream, but the panic didn't come. Instead, she took a deep breath and whispered back, What is happening?" There was a pause, a silence that stretched longer than she could bear. And then the voice returned, calm and soothing. "You are safe. Do not fear. You will come to understand soon." Before she could ask more, the light around her began to shift again. The blur of brightness slowly faded, revealing what appeared to be a room. It was large, impossibly so, with walls that seemed to pulse with energy rather than material. The floor, if you could even call it that, was smooth and glowing faintly, like the surface of some kind of living organism. Martha blinked, trying to adjust to the strange, otherworldly surroundings. She was no longer on her balcony or in her apartment. She wasn't even on Earth. But still, the panic that should have gripped her heart was absent. Instead, there was a strange calmness, a sense of wonder at the unfamiliarity of everything. The voice spoke again, but this time, Martha could hear it more clearly, as if it were attached to a being, rather than just a presence. "I am Aris. Welcome, Martha of Earth." Her heart skipped a beat. The voice was more distinct now, and she could almost feel its presence, as if someone very close to her, was standing right beside her. "Do not be afraid. You are our guest. Our mission is to understand your species, and you are the first we have chosen to learn from. To help us." Martha stood frozen in place, trying to process everything at once. Aris. She could feel the name resonating with her, like it was meant for her to hear, like it was a part of something larger. But who was Aris, and what did they mean by, "help us"? The questions tumbled in her mind, but before she could voice them, she noticed movement in the corner of the room. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It was tall, impossibly tall, its form delicate and elegant, bathed in the same glowing light that illuminated the space. Its skin shimmered with iridescent hues, like a ripple of colors across a calm ocean surface. The being's eyes were large, almond-shaped, and glowed with a soft light, like two stars reflected in the night sky. For a brief moment, Martha forgot to breathe. The being in front of her was not human, not even remotely close to any earthly creature she had ever imagined. Its features were ethereal, hauntingly beautiful in their otherworldly way. Aris stepped forward, its movements graceful and deliberate. Despite the alien appearance, there was something comforting about the being's presence, a warmth that radiated from it like the sun's rays. "You have questions," Aris said, its voice now softer, more personal. "I will answer what I can. But know this, your journey with us has only just begun." Martha's mind raced, and for the first time in her life, she felt the undeniable pull of something greater than herself, something beyond the confines of her own world. In that moment, she realized she wasn't afraid at all. She was captivated. Martha's eyes remained fixed on Aris, who stood before her, the ethereal being emanating a quiet, almost palpable presence. She couldn't tear her gaze away. There was something in those glowing eyes, something ancient, yet gentle, that made her feel both incredibly small and, in some strange way, incredibly significant. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was deep, but not oppressive. It was as though the vastness of space itself had wrapped around them, and in that infinity, only the two of them existed. I don't understand," Martha finally whispered, her voice trembling just slightly. She cleared her throat, trying to steady herself. "Where am I? Why me? Why Earth?" Aris tilted its head slightly, the iridescent skin shifting like liquid light in response. There was something in that movement, an unspoken empathy that made Martha feel seen, in a way she had never felt before. The alien being was not just looking at her, it was understanding her, in some profound way. "We are explorers," Aris began, its voice now less distant and more intimate. "We come from a system far beyond your own. We have traveled across many stars, seeking to understand the myriad forms of life that populate the universe. But Earth is special." Martha swallowed, her pulse quickening. "Special?" she thought, her mind racing to process everything. "Yes," Aris continued, "your species has a unique potential, Martha. A potential for growth, for connection. But your world is also in great danger. There are forces, not unlike ours, that seek to destroy rather than understand. We wish to help, but we need a guide. Someone who can show us what it means to be human." Martha's heart raced as the enormity of Aris's words sank in. The weight of the universe pressed in on her, but she didn't feel crushed under it. Instead, there was a strange sense of clarity, as if this very moment, was exactly where she was meant to be. "Why me?" she asked again, her voice steadying as she took a step closer. "Why did you choose me?" Aris's gaze softened, if that was even possible. Its eyes seemed to glow brighter as it spoke. "You are more than you know, Martha. There is something in you, a thread of energy, of wisdom, that calls to us. We have studied your species for a long time, but it was only when we saw you, that we knew you were the one who could guide us. The others would have been too afraid, too willing to reject the unknown. But you are curious, open to possibilities." Martha felt the weight of Aris's words settle in her chest. It was as though everything in her life had led her to this very point. Every doubt, every uncertainty, every decision, had all been leading to this moment. But still, the question lingered. "Are you asking me to help you?" she asked, her voice quiet but strong. "Yes," Aris replied. "We need to learn your ways, your history, your culture, your emotions. We are different. Our kind does not experience the world as you do, but we seek understanding. Through you, we hope to find the connection that we've been searching for across countless worlds." The idea of helping an alien race seemed impossible, absurd even, but Martha felt an unexpected sense of purpose growing within her. She didn't know why, but she trusted Aris. Trust came easily in this strange, foreign place, with the alien who stood before her, offering not just knowledge, but the chance to connect with something beyond human comprehension. "And what do you expect from me in return?" she asked, her curiosity now piqued more than ever. Aris's glowing eyes seemed to narrow ever so slightly. "We do not ask for anything from you that would harm you. But we do ask for your guidance, for your insight into what it means to live, to love, to connect with others. You will teach us, and in return, we will share with you the wisdom of the stars. Together, we can help your world, and ours." Martha stood there, processing the weight of what Aris had said. Help the world? She thought. How? But before she could voice the question, Aris raised a hand, as if sensing her thoughts. The movement was fluid, graceful, and Martha couldn't help but be mesmerized by the being's presence. You will see, Aris said simply. In time. But for now, Martha of Earth, know this. Your presence here has already set something in motion. A change. A shift. You are not alone in this journey. Not anymore. The alien's words lingered in the air long after they were spoken, and for a moment, Martha could feel something stir deep within her. A sense of connection not just to Aris, but to the universe itself. She wasn't sure if she fully understood what had just happened or what was about to come. But as she looked into Aris's eyes, she knew one thing for certain. Her life, her very existence, had just changed. And somehow, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. The space around Martha began to hum softly, the walls pulsating with a rhythmic energy that seemed to align with her own heartbeat. She felt her breath steadying, as though the very air was guiding her to a place of calm. Aris, standing before her, exuded an unspoken assurance. The alien's presence was both powerful and serene, yet entirely non-threatening. In fact, it felt almost familiar. How do we begin? Martha asked, her voice steady but laced with anticipation. Aris didn't respond immediately. Instead, it stepped backward, turning its gaze toward a glowing panel embedded in the smooth surface of the floor. The panel flickered, and suddenly, strange symbols began to appear, shifting and rearranging themselves in a complex dance of light and color. The symbols were unfamiliar to Martha, but there was something about them that felt right, as though they were speaking directly to her mind. This is your first lesson, Aris said softly, its voice reverberating in her mind, bypassing any need for spoken words. Your species is built upon connection. Connection to each other, to the world around you, and to the very energy of the universe. We, too, have this ability, but we have not learned to harness it as you have. This is something unique to humans. Martha's heart skipped. Connection, she repeated under her breath, the word resonating in her chest. She had always felt it, the bond between herself and the world, between herself and others. It was what made her feel alive, even when life seemed cold and disconnected. But now, in this strange, alien space, that connection felt amplified. It was as if the very fabric of the universe was whispering to her, urging her to understand. Aris's eyes glowed brighter as it continued, its voice still a soothing whisper inside her mind. You will learn to connect with the world around you, to see beyond the surface. What is hidden will be revealed. Your understanding of the universe will deepen. You will begin to see the unseen threads that bind all things. Martha's breath caught in her throat as the symbols on the panel began to shift again. They were no longer just random shapes and lines. They had started to form patterns, intricate designs that seemed to pulse with life. As the patterns continued to unfold, Martha felt a strange warmth settle in her chest, as if the symbols were speaking directly to her soul. Can you teach me to understand these? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, not sure if it was even possible. Aris nodded, a gentle motion that filled Martha with a sense of comfort. Yes, but first, you must understand how to open your mind to the deeper currents of the world around you. The mind is like a bridge between the physical and the unseen. You must learn to quiet the noise of your thoughts, to listen with more than just your ears. Martha stood still, focusing on her breathing as Aris guided her through the process. The hum of the room seemed to soften, and the overwhelming presence of the alien's energy became more of a quiet current, like a steady, flowing river. Aris instructed her to close her eyes and let go of everything. Her doubts, her fears, the distractions of the world she had known. She obeyed, and slowly, she began to feel a shift. It was subtle at first, like the first hint of morning light creeping over the horizon. Her mind became clearer, quieter, and in that stillness, something else began to emerge. It was a sense of connection, not just to Aris, but to everything in the room, everything outside the room, the stars, the galaxies, the universe. It was as if she could feel the energy pulsing in every particle of existence. "Good," Aris said, its voice warm with approval. "Now, open your mind to the symbols. Let them guide you, and you will see the connections. The symbols are not just shapes. They are keys. They unlock understanding." Martha focused her attention on the shifting symbols. They moved fluidly, like liquid light, and she realized that they were not just visual representations. They were patterns of energy, flows of information that seemed to transcend language. As she allowed her mind to open further, she felt herself drawn into the symbols, into their meaning. Slowly, they began to make sense, not in the logical, human way of thought, but in a deeper, more intuitive way. Each symbol represented a concept, an idea, an emotion, a feeling of interconnectedness, a reminder of the balance that existed between all things. A symbol for love, a symbol for sorrow, a symbol for peace, a symbol for change. Martha felt a strange sensation, like the rush of wind in her chest, as she recognized the deeper truths embedded within the symbols. They spoke to her, not in words, but in feelings, in waves of understanding that seemed to resonate with every part of her being. "You are beginning to understand," Aris said softly, as though sensing her progress. "Your species carries this ability, this gift, the connection to the unseen, to each other, to the universe itself. It is something that you do not yet fully grasp, but it is something that will shape your future, if you learn to embrace it." Martha opened her eyes slowly, her body feeling lighter, more attuned to the energy around her. She had no idea how much time had passed, but she felt different, as if something deep inside her had shifted. The alien world she had been thrust into no longer felt so foreign. There was a comfort, a familiarity in the vastness of it all, and in Aris' presence. She looked at Aris, meeting its glowing eyes. "I feel connected," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Aris nodded, its form shimmering in response. "That is only the beginning, Martha. The connection will grow stronger with time. Soon, you will see more than you ever thought possible. But for now, rest. Let your mind absorb what you have learned. Tomorrow, we will begin again." Martha stood in silence, her heart full of questions and wonder. She had begun to understand something far greater than anything she had ever imagined. But there was still so much to learn. And she was ready to see what the universe had to offer, ready to discover the connections that would change everything. The next few days, if they could even be called days, since time here seemed to move differently, were filled with lessons and revelations. Martha's mind, once so used to the rhythm of Earth's simple existence, was now attuned to a much deeper, more complex frequency. Aris guided her with patience, teaching her not only how to understand the symbols but also how to interpret the flow of energy between everything in the universe. Each new lesson felt like a new layer of reality was being peeled away, revealing a hidden world beneath. The universe, Aris had explained, wasn't just a collection of stars and planets. It was a vast, interconnected web of energy, and every living being, every particle of matter, played a part in that web. The connections between everything were subtle, invisible to the naked eye, but they were undeniably real. And Martha was beginning to feel them. One evening, as she sat cross-legged on the floor of the glowing chamber, Aris invited her to try something different. It was time, it seemed, for the next phase of her learning. "You've begun to feel the energy around you," Aris said, its voice a calm whisper in her mind. "But now, you must learn to direct it, to weave it." Martha's brow furrowed. "Weave it? How do I do that?" Aris smiled, the light from its form shifting gently in response. "It is not about control. It is about understanding. The energy flows through you as much as it flows through the universe. You must learn to listen to it, to move with it, like a river. You do not force the current, you guide it." Martha nodded, though the concept was still somewhat elusive to her. She closed her eyes again, as she had done in their previous lessons, and began to focus on her breath. In and out, slowly, deliberately. With each breath, She began to sense the subtle currents of energy surrounding her, something she had not been fully aware of before. But now, it was as though they were part of her, flowing just beneath the surface of her consciousness. Let go of your thoughts, Aris instructed. Focus on your body. Feel the energy in your hands, in your chest, in your very bones. Let it gather. At first, nothing happened. She felt a subtle heat in her hands, the faintest tingling sensation, but nothing more. Then, with Aris's guidance, she visualized the energy swirling around her body, slowly at first, like a soft breeze, then more strongly, like a growing storm. And then, something incredible happened. Her hands began to glow. A soft, golden light radiated from her palms, faint at first but growing stronger with every breath she took. The energy she had been attuned to, the very current of the universe, responded to her focus. She could feel it, like a tangible force under her skin. Her heart quickened with the realization that she had done it. She had tapped into something far beyond her comprehension. Good, Aris said, its voice filled with warmth. Now, direct it. Martha hesitated, unsure of what to do. The energy felt so alive, so real, like it could do anything. But what was the right thing? What was the purpose of it? How'd I know what to do with it? She asked aloud, feeling a sense of awe mixed with uncertainty. Trust yourself, Aris replied, and trust the energy. It will guide you, just as you are learning to guide it. Let it flow with your intentions. Let it become your extension. Martha took a deep breath, and this time, she focused her thoughts not on controlling the energy, but on allowing it. She imagined it moving, like water flowing in a stream, shaping and forming in response to her will. Slowly, carefully, she reached out with her glowing hands and tried to direct the energy to the space in front of her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hum, the air in front of her shimmered. The glowing light intensified for a split second, and then, as if guided by her hands, a ripple of energy expanded outward, leaving a small trail of glowing shapes in its wake. Martha gasped. She had created something. Something beautiful, something alive, with nothing more than her focus and the energy that surrounded her. The shapes in the air danced like living lights, swirling around her hands before fading away into the ether. Aris watched with silent approval, its glowing form flickering gently. You have done well, Martha. You are learning to connect with the essence of the universe itself. This is the beginning of true understanding. Martha sat back, her breath coming in quick bursts. The energy still hummed in her hands, like a living, breathing thing, and she felt a connection to it, an understanding that had eluded her for so long. She hadn't just learned to manipulate the energy. She had learned to listen to it, to feel it, and to trust it. But as she marveled at the power she had begun to understand, another thought crossed her mind. What happens next? She asked. What do I do with this? What is the purpose of it all? Aris's voice was gentle, almost philosophical, when it spoke again. The purpose, Martha, is not about control or power. It is about balance. The energy flows through everything, through the stars, through your world, through us. It binds all things together. But when the balance is disrupted, when the flow is interrupted by fear or hatred or greed, that is when chaos arises. You, Martha, have the potential to bring balance back, to heal, to restore harmony. But you must learn to wield this knowledge with wisdom. Martha's heart skipped a beat. The weight of Aris's words settled in her chest, heavy and real. Balance, she repeated quietly. That's what all of this is about. Yes, Aris affirmed. It is what all life is about. Finding the balance between light and dark, between knowledge and ignorance, between action and rest. It is the dance of the universe. And you, Martha, have begun to learn its steps. Martha sat in silence, her hands still glowing faintly. The energy was pulsing softly now, almost like it was waiting for her to take the next step, to choose the path she would walk. And for the first time, she felt as though she wasn't just floating through life, reacting to the world around her. She felt as though she was part of something larger, something profoundly important. But as she stared at her glowing hands, she knew one thing for certain. this was only the beginning. There was so much more to understand, so much more to do, and whatever came next, she was ready. As the days passed, Martha's connection to the energy around her deepened. She continued her lessons with Aris, and slowly but surely, the world she had once known seemed like a distant memory. Every day brought new insights, new abilities. She learned to sense the emotions of others, to see through the veils of illusion that clouded reality, and, most astonishingly, she learned to heal. But with each new lesson came an undeniable realization: she was changing. Her body felt stronger, her mind sharper, her awareness expanded, and yet, a growing sense of responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. One day, as she sat cross-legged on the floor of the glowing chamber, Aris approached her with an expression that was unreadable, even for its kind. The room around them shimmered softly, the ethereal hum of the space filling the air. "Martha," Aris's voice rang clearly in her mind, "you have come far. But now, you must face something far greater than you have yet encountered." Martha looked up, her heart beating a little faster. "What do you mean? What's coming?" "There are forces, Martha, forces beyond our control, that threaten the balance of the universe. They seek only destruction and chaos. You have begun to understand the energy that connects all things, but now you must learn to use that energy not just for creation, but for defense." A chill ran down Martha's spine. She had never thought of herself as a defender, but the weight of Aris's words settled on her. "Destruction? Chaos? How do I defend against something like that?" she asked quietly, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Aris's gaze softened, its light flickering gently. "You will not be alone in this, Martha. There are others like me who stand against the darkness, but you are the key. You are the one who understands the balance. You have the ability to guide others, to show them the way forward." Martha's mind whirled. "I don't understand. What do I need to do?" Aris extended a hand, and the symbols that had once glowed around them began to shift once more. This time, however, the symbols were not serene. They were darker, more jagged. They flickered in and out of focus, like broken fragments of a shattered mirror. "There is a disturbance," Aris said, its tone grave. "The energy in your world is being warped. Something is interfering with the natural flow. It is not just a threat to your world, but to the fabric of the universe itself." Martha stood up, her knees trembling slightly. She had been prepared to learn, to grow, but this was different. This was not a lesson. This was a warning, a challenge. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, the words coming out stronger than she expected. There was a fire in her now, one that hadn't been there before. This wasn't just about learning anymore. This was about protecting everything she had come to love. This newfound connection, the stars, the energy flowing through her, and yes, even Aris. "Then it begins now," Aris replied. Without another word, the chamber began to shift. The walls warped and bent, the lights flickering violently as the very energy of the room seemed to convulse. Martha stumbled, her balance faltering as the space around her seemed to crack and distort. It was as if the very fabric of reality itself was coming undone. She felt the energy, the delicate balance she had learned to wield, shudder beneath her fingertips. The symbols that had once glowed brightly now flared with an ominous, pulsing light. The warmth she had come to associate with the universe felt suddenly cold, alien. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The light faded, the air grew still, and Martha found herself standing in a vast, dark void. "What is this?" she whispered, her breath catching in her throat. In the distance, a shape began to form. It was like a shadow, an enormous figure made of shifting darkness, but it pulsed with a menacing energy that Martha could feel deep within her bones. The shape grew larger, closer, until it was standing right before her, towering and incomprehensible. A being of pure shadow and malice. Aris's voice resonated in her mind once more, calm but urgent. "This is one of them, Martha. A creature of the void. A being that feeds on the imbalance of energy. Its sole purpose is to disrupt the flow, to tear apart the connections that bind the universe together. Martha's heart pounded in her chest as the shadow-like creature loomed over her. Its presence was suffocating, its very form exuding a palpable sense of dread. The air around them felt thick with hostility, the darkness pressing in on her from all sides. "Do not fear," Oris's voice urged, its warmth a steady presence in the chaos. "You have the power to stop it. Use what you have learned. Trust in the energy. Trust in yourself." Martha nodded, taking a deep breath. She could feel the energy within her, that same current that had flowed through her since the beginning. She reached out with her hands, letting the energy swirl around her, but this time, it felt different. Darker. The disturbance in the balance had shifted the flow of the energy, but she could still tap into it, still use it. The creature lunged toward her, a mass of shadow and sharp, jagged edges, and Martha did the only thing she could think to do. She focused all of her energy into one concentrated point. She released a pulse, sending the energy rippling outward, a wave of light that cut through the darkness like a blade. The creature recoiled, its form flickering violently as the light touched it. But it wasn't enough. The void creature was relentless, and it charged again, faster than before. Martha's mind raced, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She couldn't let it win. She couldn't let the balance of the universe be destroyed. She took a deep breath, this time calling forth not just the energy within her, but the energy of everything around her, the stars, the galaxies, the very fabric of existence. She called upon the balance of life itself. With a force unlike anything she had felt before, she extended her hands toward the creature. The energy exploded outward, filling the void with a brilliant light that overwhelmed the darkness. The creature screamed, its form writhing in agony as the light surged through it, unraveling its very essence. And then, with a final burst of energy, the shadow dissolved, leaving nothing behind but the faintest echo of its presence. Martha stood there, breathing heavily, her body trembling from the intensity of the moment. The energy around her was still, peaceful again. The balance had been restored, at least for now. Oris appeared before her, its form shimmering with pride. "You have done well, Martha. You have faced the darkness and restored the balance. You are ready." But Martha's heart was heavy, and she knew this victory was only temporary. The disturbance was far from over. There would be more challenges, more shadows, and Martha, with the power to protect and the knowledge she had gained, was the universe's last line of defense. The fight was only just beginning. The silence in the chamber was almost deafening after the battle. Martha's breathing echoed in the stillness as she slowly lowered her hands, still glowing faintly with the residual energy of the fight. Her body ached, but there was no time to rest. The victory over the shadow creature, while important, was only a fleeting moment in a much larger struggle. Oris stood before her, its form shimmering gently. There was a quiet pride in the alien's energy, but there was also something else, an underlying concern, an unspoken fear that Martha could feel deep within her chest. "The creature you faced was only a harbinger, Martha," Oris's voice echoed in her mind, its tone grave. "It is a manifestation of the disturbance in the balance. What you faced today was a mere shadow of the true enemy." Martha's heart skipped a beat. She had felt it. How the creature wasn't just an individual threat, but a symptom of something far larger and more insidious. "What are we dealing with, Oris?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. "What is the real enemy?" "The true enemy," Oris said slowly, "is not a being you can see or touch. It is the unraveling of the very fabric of existence itself, the breaking of connections, the tearing of the web that binds the universe together. It is a force that seeks to destroy everything, to return the universe to an empty void." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Martha could feel the weight of them, the enormity of what she was being asked to face. It was one thing to fight a creature, an entity she could see, something tangible. But this was different. This was not a battle of light and dark, of flesh and energy. This was a fight against everything that held the universe together. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. How can we stop it? Aris's voice was filled with an almost sad wisdom. To restore the balance, you must find the source of the disturbance. The energy is being warped at its core, from a place far beyond the reach of your current understanding. It is being manipulated, twisted, in a way that is beyond even my people's knowledge. Martha's mind raced as she processed Aris's words. So we have to stop whatever's causing it? But if it's beyond even your knowledge, how do we do that? How do I? You already have the answer. Aris interrupted, its presence growing more insistent. You are connected to the energy in ways that neither I nor anyone else can fully understand. You have tapped into the balance, and that connection, Martha, is the key. You must go to the source. You must go to where the disturbance began. Her pulse quickened. Go to the source. But where was that? How could she find something so elusive? Something that was manipulating the very foundation of the universe itself. She didn't have the answers, but she knew, deep down, that this was her journey to make. You're asking me to do something impossible, she murmured, almost to herself. It may seem impossible, Aris agreed, but you have the power. You are ready, Martha. You must trust the energy. Trust your connection to it. It will guide you. There was a long pause, and then Aris's energy pulsed gently. There is a place far beyond the stars. A place where the energy flows in strange and dangerous ways. It is called the Nexus. The disturbance begins there. That is where you must go. Martha's eyes widened as the name echoed in her mind. The Nexus. She had never heard of it before, but it felt familiar somehow, like a name she had forgotten but always known in the deepest part of her soul. The Nexus, she whispered, her voice trembling. How do I get there? I will guide you, Aris said simply. But you will have to travel alone once you arrive. It is a place of isolation, of challenge. Only those who truly understand the balance can navigate it and survive. The thought of being alone in such a place frightened Martha, but it was a fear she could not afford to indulge. She had a purpose now, no matter how overwhelming, no matter how dangerous. She had come too far to turn back. I'm ready, she said, though doubt still lingered in her chest. She didn't know if she was truly ready, but she knew she couldn't wait any longer. Aris's presence softened. Then we begin. Rest now. The journey will not be easy, but you will have everything you need within you. The balance, the connection, it is all inside you. Martha nodded, though the unease in her heart didn't entirely fade. Her mind was spinning with the enormity of the task ahead, but there was something else there, too, something stronger than fear. Hope. In the hours that followed, Martha found a moment of stillness. She sat on the floor of the chamber, closed her eyes, and focused inward. The energy that she had become so attuned to was still there, swirling around her. It was as though it was waiting for her, offering her guidance, offering her strength. For the first time, Martha truly felt the depth of her connection to everything. The web of the universe was not just a concept, it was real, and she was part of it. It wasn't just about defending herself or protecting others. It was about the survival of the universe itself. The balance must be restored, or everything would fall apart. Rest now, Aris's voice echoed again, more distant this time, as if the alien was preparing for the journey ahead. When you awaken, you will begin your journey to the Nexus. Martha breathed deeply, her body settling into a calm rhythm. Her mind was filled with the thoughts of what was to come, but for now, she allowed herself a brief moment of peace. She could feel the hum of energy around her, soothing her, preparing her for what lay ahead. The Nexus was waiting, and Martha would find it. She would restore the balance. She had no other choice. When she awoke, the chamber was silent once more, but the weight of what she was about to do pressed down on her shoulders. The energy that had once been her guide now seemed to pulse with a quiet urgency, as though it knew that the time for waiting was over. Aris was standing before her once again, its form glowing with quiet determination. "Are you ready?" Aris asked, its voice calm but laden with meaning. Martha nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't sure what the Nexus held in store for her, but one thing was clear. The universe's fate rested in her hands. "I'm ready," she said again, her voice firmer this time. She had no choice but to face what awaited her. And with that, the journey to the Nexus began. The world around Martha began to blur as Aris's energy enveloped her. She could feel herself being pulled through a vast expanse of time and space, a sensation so disorienting that it made her stomach churn. She wanted to close her eyes, to block it out, but the pull was too strong. She had no choice but to surrender herself to the journey. She had to trust Aris. Trust that the guidance would lead her where she needed to go. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the sensation stopped. Martha opened her eyes. The swirling colors, the warping of reality, had faded, and in its place, she found herself standing in a vast, desolate landscape. The sky above her was a deep, shifting violet, speckled with strange constellations that seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm. There was no sun here, only a dull, ever-present light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The ground beneath her feet was cracked and barren, stretching out into a horizon that seemed to extend infinitely in every direction. The air was still, heavy with an oppressive silence. "Welcome to the Nexus," Aris's voice whispered in her mind, calm but distant. "It is a place outside of time, where the energy of the universe converges and fractures. It is here that the disturbance begins, Martha. You must find the source of the imbalance before it consumes everything." Martha swallowed, her breath shallow. The landscape around her was unlike anything she had ever seen. It felt alien, hostile, as if the very fabric of the place was designed to confuse and disorient. There was no natural flow of energy here, no warmth, no life. Just emptiness, and the faintest undercurrent of something dark, something wrong. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took a tentative step forward. Her hands instinctively reached out, feeling for the energy she had grown so familiar with. She could still sense it, faintly, but it felt twisted here, distorted by an unknown force. It was like trying to touch a living thing that was constantly shifting and pulling away. "Aris," she whispered, hoping the alien would hear her. "How do I find the source? How do I stop this?" "You must trust in your connection to the energy," Aris responded, its voice quiet but certain. "The Nexus is the key. The disturbance is a ripple in the flow, but it can be healed. You must listen, feel the energy in its truest form, and let it guide you to the source. The more you trust in it, the clearer the path will become." Martha closed her eyes, reaching inward. She focused on the energy, allowing herself to become one with the pulse of the universe. She had done this before, felt the subtle currents that connected everything, but this place, this Nexus, was different. The energy here felt like it was slipping through her fingers, like a dream she couldn't hold onto. But she couldn't afford to give up. The fate of everything depended on her. Slowly, she began to walk forward, her steps unsure but steady. Each movement felt deliberate, as if she was walking through a dreamscape, everything hazy, everything uncertain. The further she walked, the more the air seemed to hum with energy, and yet, it felt like there was a growing resistance, a pushback against her presence. "Listen closely," Aris's voice urged, softer now. "The source is near, but it is hidden in the folds of this place. The disturbance is like a wound in the fabric of the universe, and the Nexus holds the answer. You must look beyond the surface." Martha paused, feeling the weight of Aris's words. Look beyond the surface. The source was hidden in the folds of this place. But where? And how? Then, she felt it. A subtle shift in the air. A tug in the energy that seemed to echo deep within her soul. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but then it grew stronger. The ground beneath her feet began to pulse with an unnatural rhythm, and a crack appeared in the sky above, jagged and glowing with a dark, sickly light. "It is there," Aris whispered urgently. "Follow it." Martha's heart raced as she followed the crack in the sky, her feet moving faster now, almost instinctively. The energy around her grew more intense, more chaotic, as if the very fabric of the Nexus was beginning to unravel. The crack in the sky widened, revealing a swirling vortex of dark energy, a black hole, but not in the conventional sense. This was something far more sinister, a rift in the universe itself. She reached the center of the vortex, and as she did, the disturbance in the energy grew unbearable. The air around her seemed to warp, bending and twisting, like it was being sucked into the rift. The sound of the vortex grew louder, a low, guttural hum that reverberated through her chest. Martha stepped closer, the energy surrounding her now violently shifting, pushing against her. But she couldn't stop. She had to do this. She had to stop the disturbance before it consumed everything. As she reached the edge of the rift, she could feel the energy pulling at her, like fingers, grasping, trying to drag her into the darkness. Her hands shot out, and she called upon the energy within her, the same energy she had learned to control. She felt it surge through her, a wave of pure light and power, as she directed it toward the rift. The universe trembled. For a moment, there was nothing but the overwhelming pull of the darkness, the swirling energy threatening to tear her apart. And then, with a flash of brilliant light, the energy from Martha's hands collided with the rift. The explosion of power was blinding, and for a brief moment, everything around her went silent. When the light faded, the rift was gone. Martha's breath came in sharp gasps as she stood alone in the silence. The dark energy had dissipated, leaving only a calm emptiness in its wake. The nexus, which had once felt so hostile, now seemed still, peaceful. But Martha knew it wasn't over. The disturbance had been pushed back, yes, but the imbalance wasn't gone. It would return. The universe was still fragile, still vulnerable, and there would be more threats, more shadows lurking in the edges of reality. She stood there, looking out into the vast emptiness of the nexus, feeling the weight of what she had just done. She had stopped the rift, but there was so much more ahead. The true test, she knew, was yet to come. But for now, she had won this battle. And for the first time since she had arrived in the nexus, Martha felt a quiet, certain peace settle within her. She had the power to protect, the knowledge to guide, and most importantly, the understanding that the balance could be restored, one step at a time. And with that, the journey, though far from over, had taken its first step toward healing.